So there's this wine study that actually broke my brain when I first read it. Researchers gave a group of people a bottle of wine. Same bottle, same glass, same pour, same vintage, nothing had changed. But they told one group that that bottle cost $45 and they told another group that that bottle of wine was only $5. What they found was that the $45 group not only said that the wine tasted better, but their brains actually showed more pleasure activity neurologically. The wine never changed, but the price tag did. And this study is not about wine. Hi guys, my name is Anna. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about perceived value, specifically why some people can get paid more, handed more opportunities, why they seem to just get everything else that you dreamed of, but it doesn't seem like they're working any harder than you are. So by the end of this video, you should have a completely different way of thinking of how worth actually gets communicated in the world and what you can do about it for your life. If you're new here, like the video and subscribe down below and share it if there's someone that comes to mind when you're watching this video. Well, anyway, now let's get back into it. So we are all told the same formula for how worth works. Be good, be reliable, do good at what you are working on. Don't ask for too much, don't ask for too little, over deliver, put in more hours than anybody else. Be consistent and then the right people will notice you. Most high-performing people I know follow that formula to a T. They over deliver and then do way more than anybody ever expects them to do, and then they wait. And then someone else, sometimes a little bit less experienced, sometimes just a little bit more visible, they get the rate, they get the opportunity, they get the room. And it's not because they were better, but it's simply because they were actually perceived differently in the situation. And that gap between what you're actually worth and then what people think you're worth, that's what I want to talk about today. Because this isn't random at all. It's more or less psychological and it's completely explainable. I mean, luxury brands do it all the time. And to be honest, when I first learned about this whole idea of perceived value, I wanted to push back on it entirely because I come from a family where they immigrated to the US. And then from there, it's always do good work, do hard work, do the things that are going to get you into the right school, do the things that are going to get you the best grades, do the things that are going to get you the best acceptance in the room for whatever reason. My whole life, I just understood, okay, I have to do good work to get good results. And yes, that is true to some degree, but it's not what we're talking about. It's more or less just everything I grew up believing said that good work spoke for itself. Good work will always show itself when needed. Yes, that's true, but not at first, not automatically, and sometimes not in the way that you would like it to. This honestly is the most uncomfortable part when it comes to reality and life itself. So what the wine study is showing us is something that's called perceived value. It's the most powerful force in how everything in the world is assessed. It's also the most powerful force in how you are assessed. I'm going to hold my microphone for this, but I like to have a lot of high value conversations, in-depth, psychological, theorized, just trying to understand how mechanisms in the world works. The one thing I've actually never had a conversation with someone about was the idea of perceived value. It's something that I wish I could talk about more with some of my friends, or I wish I could talk about with others. So I'm just going to share it with you guys instead. What perceived value is not, it's not about being fake. It's not about pretending to be someone that you're not. It's not about performing confidence that you just don't feel like you have. It's not about artificially manufacturing some type of feeling to radiate some type of energy that's going to connect you onto the lifeline that you need to do. I'm reading this book right now, but it's not something you can artificially create inside yourself. It's more or less about understanding the signals that you give off. It's how you speak about yourself, how you talk about your work, how do you set the frame of an interaction. Things like this are actively shaping what people immediately believe and perceive you to be worth to them in their minds. So the $45 wine was simply just presented in a way that said, I'm worth your full attention. A beautiful, bold red. That's what the $45 wine was giving off because that's the frame that was set. So a 2008 study out of Caltech actually found that when people believed a wine was more expensive, their medial orbitofrontal cortex, which is just the part of the brain that processes pleasure and value, this specific part was actually more active. So their brain wasn't just saying, hey, this is more enjoyable. They neurologically experienced more pleasure in that frontal cortex. I'm also not a neuroscientist. I just really enjoy studying the brain and how everything works and why we have certain experiences compared to others. So the price actually wasn't the product, it was the signal. And the brain actually followed that signal in the first place. And that's what led to the study, and that's what led to the data. And that's what leads to certain experiences that you have compared to others, and why you are perceived differently, or why you specifically perceive things differently compared to other people. It's the whole idea of my reality is not your reality. We don't experience the same things, even though we could physically be having the exact same experience. It's based on the signals that we have in our head and what we correlate them to. So I also want to bring up the idea of luxury products as another example, just so that way you have a better idea of what I'm actually talking about. Think of Hermes. Think of the beautiful Birkin 25 Togo leather taupe that we all know and love. But specifically, why does a bag like this cost around $25,000 in the first place? Is it the stitching? Is it the material it's used? Is it maybe the time it took to actually create the bag? I mean, I can understand that because it does take about 25 hours to actually produce a bag like that in the first place. But honestly, the materials cost about $500 to $800 in total. And if I wanted a bag that was $500 to $800, or I wanted something that looked like a Birkin, I could just go shop on Demillier. I mean, their bags are beautiful Italian leather and almost look exactly the same. But why is Demillier different from an Hermes Birkin? Well, here's why. It's because when you buy a Birkin, you are buying the feeling of an idea and the way it was created in the environment around it. The difference between buying a bag in a store and then buying a bag through an appointment in person, hand-picking the exact leather that you want, the exact color that you want, that perceived value of the experience, that feeling is actually what we're after. That feeling is actually what we're paying for. So even though the bag itself, the product, cost about $2,000, let's just say at most, what we're buying as far as the other $19,000 or the other $23,000 is the feeling and the status and the idea that a bag like a Birkin brings. That is why other luxury brands are very good at actually creating the feeling and the idea of that exclusivity of being able to own a product off their line or own a product from that name or that brand, specifically because of the fact that we have been able to create so much perceived value of what it's actually worth to have a bag like that in our collection. I'm going to talk about that in a completely different video, but I wanted to touch a little bit on it just so that way you have an idea of what we're actually getting at with perceived value. It's the thing and frame built up around the product and whatever we're chasing after itself that makes it so desirable and so forthcoming that we have to have it. People are able to create a frame of their environment and create perceived value around their life itself. That's why PR people immediately chase them saying, hey, can you please promote our product? Hey, can you please promote our brand? That's why influencer marketing is a thing. That's why affiliate marketing is a thing, because perceived value is actually the way the world is run. The perceived value is the way the world works. And that's how we're able to differentiate levels of society and a hierarchy of what is actually considered good, better, and best because of the perceived value that we have created for ourselves, products, and experiences, but also the same type of perceived value that everyone else has created around you. So how do we actually apply this? Let's say you are selling a coaching program. Let's say you're selling a product, a service, or some type of attribute. First, stop underselling before you even start. Honestly, you don't even have to be selling anything. Stop underselling yourself before you even begin. Pay attention to how you introduce your own work. Stop saying to yourself, this might be wrong. This idea may not be the best idea. I don't know if I'm good enough, but stop. You're doing this before you even make the point. You don't know if it's going to be a good idea. You don't know if it's going to be good. You are stopping yourself before you ever get started. Same goes with pricing a program or pricing a course or pricing a product. You are immediately identifying what you think the product could be worth, when in reality, you don't know what the product is worth to someone else. So every qualifier that you have of these ideas, if you're even good enough, is cutting the price of your product, service, attribute, whatever, or you selling yourself as a person. You're cutting the price before anyone has ever even been able to even determine what you are worth to them. It's cutting the price tag before anyone has ever even looked at the product. Second, let the frame do the work. The wine was not different. The frame was, the environment was, everything around the wine, the controlled factors were different, not the wine itself. So the way you present an idea and ask a boundary, basically the whole entire context around the idea itself, sets the frame and shapes how it's perceived and received before the content ever does. A lot of people think, oh, this is manipulating the fact, this is manipulating the idea, this is manipulating whatever it is I have. No, it's not manipulation. It is just communication. It is very precise methodological communication. There's just a huge difference between the two. The third one, which is honestly probably the most important, you have to stop waiting to be discovered. The woman, the man, the person that is waiting to be discovered, you are actually betting on people to have infinite time, perfect judgment, and an insurmountable amount of resources to be able to pull you out of the situation that you're in and inherently place you into a better one. First of all, they don't have that time. They don't have those resources, and they don't have that judgment that's going to get you from A to B. That is not something that you have to wait on. And everybody thinks that they have to wait on this perfect timing. Yes, wait on God's timing. Yes, there's a perfect timing for everything. But if you are waiting for somebody to pull you out of the water, I hate to say it, it's just not going to happen because you are betting on other people. You can't rely on others. You can only rely on yourself. The only person you can truly bet on is yourself. Yes, there are going to be people that are going to help you in times of needs, but if you're waiting on the perfect judgment, the perfect time, the perfect amount of whatever it is that you need to help you feel ready, it's never going to come. It's just never going to happen. When you pull yourself out of the situation, when you stop waiting for the perfect time, I'm not saying you have to be loud or you inherently have to be more aggressive. I'm just saying you're going to have to be a lot clearer about who you are, what you bring to the table, and why it matters. A lot of people think that this is arrogance. It's not arrogance. It's accuracy about who you are, what you know, and the sureness that you have in yourself and the value that you bring to the table. You're actually creating your own perceived value for others. When you learn how to do that, then you can actually create a prettier frame, a prettier environment for how your perceived value or how your worth is communicated and reciprocated by others. I like to think about it like this, like the work will get you in the room, but the perception of who you are actually determines how you get paid. And if you have been pouring every single thing into the work that you have, creating the perfect product, creating the perfect MVP, creating the perfect idea of what your skills are and what your abilities are, but you're just not getting paid for it, or you're not getting paid the way you want to for it, this is probably why. Because the recognition of who you are, what your work can do for someone else, and what X, Y, and Z can actually create for someone else, then you will be able to actually get recognized for the work that you do. So your perceived value is like a personal score. It's not about who you actually are. It's more or less about how much you can help them and how much you can make them feel good. It's not manipulation. It's just communication. And when you actually understand that you are constantly putting out signals and your brain and everyone else's brain around you are picking up on these signals to assign worth to, you're going to be a lot more intentional about the signals that you're putting out. And you're going to do this rather than just hoping to be seen by others. Well guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you staying with me to the end to hear me talk about perceived value and how we can set it up in our lives and how we understand it. I hope this actually brought some light onto not only your situation, but maybe some of the things that you think about in the world. And hopefully you can use this to upgrade your life and feel better about yourself and feel better about the direction that you're in and moving forward. Remember, I'm always supporting you guys, and I really appreciate you staying with me to the very end. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe down below. This is my journey and I want to grow with you guys, and I want you to see all parts of me because the world is just full of things that we can get so caught up in, and I want to share the real side and I want to grow with you guys on this journey. So if I have to leave you with one last thing, I want to say that I believe in you, and if I can do that, you can too. Anyway, have a good day. Bye!